OddsShopper Portfolio EV Tools could change how you view sports betting. And not just in a way that it could turn you from a losing sports bettor into a winning sports bettor, or turn a winning sports bettor into an even more profitable sports bettor. These tools certainly can do that, but they could also change how you view sports betting to where you no longer think of it as betting, but actually think of it as investing, where you could grow a bankroll in a mathematical way that isn't all that risky. Now, where this is all going to start is with you building a portfolio within the Portfolio EV tools. And the first place that you should be starting is by looking at the historical results of our tools so you could really optimize a portfolio that you make. And I'm going to build a portfolio in here for NHL, a sport that I know absolutely nothing about, but have been really profitable betting this season just by using the Portfolio EV tools and the recommended bets within my portfolio. I'm going to show you how to make that portfolio from scratch in our tools. The first thing you're going to want to do is click on leagues, and you can make one portfolio that has all of the leagues in it. You can make a bunch of portfolios that have different leagues in them. For the purposes of this video, though, I'm going to build out a hockey portfolio, but understand that this methodology I'm using to build this portfolio, it also applies to all of the other leagues that we do offer projections for. Where I'm going to start is by selecting NHL. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is select all of the sports books that I have access to. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to select all of the sports books that we have here at OddsShopper, but it is reasonable that you might not have access to all of these sports books, and it could be for reasons outside of your control. Maybe you live in a state that a certain sports book doesn't operate in. You could live in Florida that only has access to Hard Rock. Or there could be a scenario where maybe you've exhausted a book to such a strong degree that they're not letting you bet more than 20 cents at that book, and it just isn't worth your time to go and place those bets. Those are all reasonable reasons to not use a specific sports book. It could be for reasons outside of your control. Now, with that said, I do recommend you open up accounts at every single book. It is going to give you access to the most bets possible and also allow you to further diversify your portfolio and what it is that you're actually betting on a day-to-day basis. Now, after you've selected your sports books, you could also narrow down bet categories and bet types. For this video, I want to start by giving myself the most broad range of options possible. I don't want to narrow down the bet categories, the bet types. I don't want to change the expected EVs on any of the bets just because I want to start by getting access to all of the bets, previewing the results, and then start to pare that down to really optimize what bets are in the portfolio. And if I start to take stuff out before I even look at the results, I might have accidentally removed something that actually was very, very profitable of a market or a book to be betting. So I want to start with everything available to me, but I'll still walk you through what these different sliders mean. So to start here, the time until event starts, this is just simply how far away from the start of the event do you want to be placing bets. Once again, I think you should be starting by looking at all time frames, but if you only want to be looking at bets 2 hours out from a game starting, you could select that here on the slider. Odds range. If you only wanted to see bets that are plus money, you could eliminate any minus money bets, or vice versa. If you don't want any super long odds bets, you could go in here and you could remove any bets from showing up that have odds that are greater than plus 10,000 just by changing the slider to that. This next slider is for OS rating. This is our own methodology for grading bets. It takes into account all aspects of the bet, things like EV, things like expected win rate, and it grades the bets and does it in a way where the highest number is going to be stronger bets, the lower number are going to be weaker bets, and oftentimes you are going to find in certain markets an OS rating of 0 won't have an expected EV nearly as good as an OS rating of 2 or 3 or something like that. So it is very often when you build a portfolio, you may find it's optimal to build your portfolio to not show bets that have an OS rating of, say, less than 2 or less than 3. But once again, as a starting point, I'm going to leave this at 0 so that I get myself the most broad range of options possible. And then same for EV range. This is what the expected value is of each individual bet. And then expected win range. This is how often the bets are expected to win. After you've made all these selections, the next thing you want to do, just to give yourself a rough idea of what the kind of money you'd be making with the parameters of this book, is just go in here and put in your average bet size. So I'm going to put in 10, just really simple, $10 average bet size. Just get an idea of if I put $10 on every single recommended bet, what would the results be? The next thing you could do is you could change to either current season or to a previous season, or you could change to last 7 days, last 30 days. For this, I want to leave it on the current season. Where you might want to look at a previous season, though, is say it's the first week of a new season. There's really limited data. Then you might want to look back at a previous season. But with this being a month or so into the hockey season, I'm going to have the current season selected. There's a pretty large sample size of bets. After all those selections are done, the next thing you're going to do is preview the results of your portfolio. And what this is going to show you is all of the bets in here for NHL. They're recommended across all of the different bet categories that we offer and all of these different sports books. And then also taking into account that $10 average bet size. These are what the results would be of that portfolio. So what you'll see here is that of all the bets recommended so far this season within the parameters of this portfolio, 7,422 of them have won, 5,993 of them have lost. The average expected win rate was 51.7%. The average EV was 1.7%. The average OS rating, 1.6%. So the overall total amount bet would have been on a $10 average bet, $134,150. But still the profit there, $11,481 and an 8.6% ROI. So even on just $10 bet sizes at this point in the season, if you would have bet every single bet that was recommended in this portfolio, you would be up a little bit over $11,000. So what you can see from this is if you really did just blindly bet everything that was recommended by the Portfolio EV tools, you would be pretty profitable, but that doesn't mean that we can't improve upon those results. And what we're going to do now is look at all of the results of these different markets, as well as the performance at different books, and start to eliminate some of these options to make this an even more profitable portfolio. So the next thing you'll see here is that we offer 4 different markets for hockey. They're all here on screen: total assists, total points, total saves, total shots on goal. Now across these markets, we're beating assists, we're beating points, we're beating shots on goal, but we have a negative 3.2% ROI on total saves. So I'm going to take this out of our portfolio. Now, this could be a sample size error because there's only a couple hundred bets so far within this market. But even so, just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to take total saves out so that we could narrow down some of the options that are being recommended to us, because there can be instances where maybe we're not beating total assists, but we're beating point saves and shots on goal. And you really could drastically improve the performance of a portfolio if there's one market that isn't performing well where other ones aren't. So to narrow down a market, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the total bet types, and I'm only going to select total shots on goal, total points, and total assists. I am not going to have shots on goal selected. We're taking those out of the portfolio. After previewing the results of the portfolio without the saves in there, you'll see that the ROI went from 8.6 to 8.8%. Not a massive increase, but still, we've slightly optimized our portfolio to make it a little bit better. After going through all the individual markets, I'm going to start looking at all of the individual sports books, where you'll see across the board, we've generally performed pretty well at all of them. Bet Rivers, kind of neutral, 0.2% actual ROI. Fanatics is a book that we have not been beating for NHL. So in the same way that I just took out the saves, I'm also going to take out Fanatics as a sports book, because as of right now this season, we haven't been beating them in NHL. So the same process, I'm going to unselect Fanatics, then go back to the preview results tab. And now you'll see that we've gone from an 8.6% ROI to 8.8%, now up to 9.1%, little incremental improvements to the actual results of this portfolio. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to look to change some of the minimum OS rating recommendations to see if that makes a difference, positive or negative, to our overall profit for the year. Because one thing that could happen is if I change the OS rating range to, say, 10, this is likely going to improve our actual ROI, but the profit's probably going to go down because of a limited amount of bets that are recommended. And that's exactly what happened. The actual ROI went up to 11.5%, which is great, but our recommended bets went so far down because the parameters were so stringent that our profit now only is $352 as opposed to the over $11,000 that it was before. So I'm going to go back and reset the OS rating, but now I'm going to change it from 0 to 1. And it's actually something kind of similar that happened here, where the actual ROI did go up, It went up pretty significantly to where it's now at 15%. But because so many fewer bets were being recommended, I actually would prefer for this portfolio to leave the OS rating at 0, because it looks like for NHL, there are bets that have an OS rating of maybe 0.5 or maybe right under 1 that are still really profitable overall for the season. So while the actual ROI has gone up, our total profit has decreased because we've eliminated a lot of profitable bets out of our portfolio. So I've changed the OS rating back down to 0, and I'll go back to preview results just to show the overall results for the year. It's always good to check it because you might not remember all of it off the top of our head, but our overall profits for this current portfolio, $11,723. Let's see what happens if we change the EV range from 0 to a 1% EV. So 1% EV, preview the results. And once again, the profit went down because there are some bets that have a slightly lower than 1% expected EV that have been profitable over the course of the year. So with that said, I'm most apt to NHL to leave the OS rating as well as the EV range at 0, so that it's going to recommend all of the available bets for me. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that this may not end up being the case for every single sport. There might be some sports where you find that the OS rating is optimal to have at 2. Or maybe the EV is optimal to have at 3. This is why you should look at the portfolio results tab to look at all of the different results for the different bet types and see what's the most optimal way to build out that portfolio. Now, after you're done doing all of this, you could actually save your portfolio right from this screen. Whatever it is that you want to label it, you can. I recommend doing something that just makes it easy for you to remember. So for this, I would label this NHL because it's an NHL portfolio. I also recommend that you turn your notifications on, and you could do this simply by clicking this button. It's on. Now you'll see it's off. It's back on again. What this is going to do for you is if you have the OddsShopper app downloaded, you could get notifications sent directly to your phone for when plus EV bets show up in your portfolio. This is the best way to ensure that you don't miss out on any plus EV bets over the course of the day, and you don't have to constantly be refreshing the page to see when there are plus EV bets. They're going to be sent right to your phone and notify you that it's time to go and place a bet. After you've completed this, the next thing you want to do is save the portfolio. And then whenever you go to OddsShopper, this portfolio will be saved for you. You don't have to go in and rebuild the portfolio every single time you bet. Once you save a portfolio, it is there for you with those parameters whenever you want it. You could also go back and edit the portfolio. So that is something I recommend you keep up with over the course of the season, because there are always updates that sportsbooks are making in terms of how they're doing their pricing. And that could impact some of the results within your portfolio. So keep up on the results. Go back and check to make sure that you have the most optimized portfolio possible over the course of the season. But once you do have this saved, it is saved for you forever. You don't have to make a new portfolio each time you're looking to bet. After you build your portfolio, go ahead and go to portfolio betting, and you will see a tab here that says manage portfolios. This will contain all of the different portfolios that you've ever made. So you could select the ones that you want to see on your screen at any point in time. You could combine multiple portfolios. So if you have different portfolios for different leagues or different books, you could have multiple of them selected. So you get one big file of multiple portfolios. And then you'll see right here on screen all of the different bets that are being recommended for the portfolio that you've built out. What you can do also after you're done with this is go and click on these 3 dots, enter your bankroll information, and the bankroll that you enter, which should be what your actual bankroll is, that will scale with the bet size recommendations on the screen. And this is going to take into account all the different information in our algorithm, with the bets being sorted by OS rating, to make sure that you're placing more money on the best overall bets for any given day to optimize the growth of your bankroll. So if you go in here, you'll see I have the bankroll set at $1,000. But if I go ahead and I change it to $1,200, well, the bet sizes, they scale with what your bankroll is. So you want to be keeping this bankroll updated every single day. And this gets back to what we were talking about at the top of the video. This tool, it could change how you view sports betting. It doesn't have to actually be a gamble of your money. You're not flipping a coin, you're investing your money, and these tools are going to optimize the way that you put your money in play to grow a bankroll and to grow it in the most optimal way as possible so that you are making the most money you possibly can while betting on sports.